peace on earth, peace on earth. Hear the angel realms reply, be it so, your time is nigh. Peace is in your destiny. Can you hear the bells of victory? Peace on earth, there will be peace on earth. As you think, so shall it be. Plant the seed, grow the tree. Look for peace, and you will find peace is born in the heart and mind. Peace on earth, there will be peace on earth. Peace on earth, there will be peace on earth. As you think, so shall it be. Plant the seed, grow the tree. Look for peace, and you will find peace is born in the heart and mind. Peace on earth, there will be peace on earth. Hear the bells of victory. There will be peace on earth. There will be peace on earth. There will be peace on earth. And as we contemplate that wonderful thought, let's turn our attention to the peace within us. And allow yourself to come to a beautiful stillness. And if any sudden noises occur, like that one, just let them go. Bring all your mind into your own awareness of this lovely feeling of peace that is growing within you. Relaxing deeply, letting go of the day. Feeling yourself very present in this space, in the company of a wonderful gathering of like-minded friends and soon to be friends. Letting go all thoughts except those of your own inner peace. Remembering the beautiful peace that is always there inside you whenever you remember to look and feel. And just stay here for a couple of minutes more. In a moment, we'll begin the program. That wonderful peace within you. Letting go all unnecessary thoughts. And now here's the thing. We're going to begin the program. And so the lights will come up in a moment, and I'm going to invite our MC to the stage. So we're going to bring the energy up a little bit, back into talking. But you remember this peace and this relaxation. And whenever you want, you can just drop back in there. So I'm going to lift my energy a little bit now, because it's time to welcome to the stage our MC for the evening. So please make very welcome Helen Summers, who is the founding director of the Interfaith Centre in Melbourne.
Good evening, everyone. It's a great honour for me to be your MC this evening. And may I just remind you again, for those people who may have just arrived, if you have your mobiles still switched on, would you mind turning them off now? Thank you. And for those of you who have not been here before, to this church, the toilets are behind the church to my left and your right. And it is our custom that we begin all of our programs by acknowledging the peoples of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet tonight, who have cared for this part of the country for over 40,000 years. I pay my respects to their elders, both past and present. We have been listening to glorious music and meditations this evening, and while we ask you to hold your applause during the evening's proceedings, would you like to join with me in showing our appreciation to our wonderful musicians this evening. David Jones is an acclaimed Australian percussionist drummer. He was awarded the Melbourne Prize for Music in 2010. David has been a Brahma Kumari meditator since 1984. We've been listening to Carmen Warrington's beautiful, soothing words. Carmen is a performing artist, author, and funeral celebrant. Along with many meditation CDs she has recorded for the Brahma Kumaris, she has also released 8 meditation CDs through ABC Music. Megan Kenny is a highly accomplished flautist and composer, and she has just released her first solo CD, Earth Angel. She's a long-time meditator and hypnotherapist. Mike Johnson is a harpist composer who is resident musician at the Royal Botanic Gardens. His harp music has been an integral part of the mindfulness music program at the Gawler Foundation for over 20 years. And we will be hearing more from our wonderful musicians as the evening proceeds, and we ask that you keep your applause and you hold it until the end. The topic of this evening is happiness, the power within. Each one of us may have a definition of happiness. To me, happiness is not the happiness that is the opposite of sadness. The happiness that may come and go according to situations and circumstances. True happiness comes from a power drawn deep within. But how do we access that power and keep our connection with it? Tonight we will be taken through practical steps into happiness by Sister Jayanti, along with 3 practices of Raja Yoga meditation. Best known for her unique ability to impart deep spiritual truths with the utmost clarity, Sister Jayanti has been a spiritual teacher and leader and a pioneer for peace for over 45 years. She has a vision that is truly global and deeply spiritual, with an excellent command of both Eastern and Western wisdom. Her work has taken her to more than 90 countries, inspiring millions of people to enable them to develop greater harmony and well-being in their lives. She travels the world addressing issues relating to social and women's affairs, the environment, intercultural and interfaith relationships, and movements for world peace, placing great emphasis on the spiritual dimension that is so often missing in world matters today. Sister Jayanti is an author of 7 books and recording artist of many meditation CDs. She is the director for the Brahma Kumaris for Europe and the Middle East and their NGO representative to the United Nations, Geneva, and assists with the overall coordination of the organisation's activities in over 100 countries. The Brahma Kumaris is a non-governmental organisation in the United Nations and is administered by women. They facilitate courses on positive thinking, self-management, and meditation in many centres located in 130 countries throughout the world. In Melbourne, they have 5 centres and a beautiful retreat centre. My own encounters with the Brahma Kumaris began 18 years ago in New York, and since then I have experienced many inspirational Brahma Kumaris programs in their centres in Australia, at Mount Abu in Rajasthan, India, and more recently in Oxford, England. Would you join with me in welcoming Sister Jayanti?
I think, yes, I'm on. Yeah, thank you. So that was a good start. Om Shanti. A greeting of peace to my sisters and my brothers. And thank you for that warm introduction, Helen. I also agree with Helen that peace is something that's deep within the self. It's not a question of going shopping to make me happy. It's not a question of waiting for someone to bring me gifts and flowers to make me happy, or to fluctuate through praise and defamation, feeling happy in one situation and distress in the other. But happiness is something deep within. And it's something that we actually know. Sometimes you're sitting quietly and there's a feeling within you and you feel happy inside. And it's nothing to do with whatever is going on out there. And yet at other times, maybe, you're not quite in touch with yourself. And so externally, everything seems to be fine. But somehow, there's not that feeling of happiness within. And so is it something that I can draw upon at will? Or do I have to wait for optimum circumstances to have happiness? Can I push a button and access it at any time? And I believe we can. In fact, let's just take a moment and go on an inner journey and see if we can connect with that happiness within. Sitting quietly, I come back to the peace that I experienced earlier. A gentle, soft stillness, and a feeling that all is well. And now I go deeper and deeper within myself. And as I do this, I realize that together with peace, there is also happiness within. happiness is my intrinsic nature. I, the inner being, in my own natural state, I'm happy, I'm joyful. My original personality is of peace and happiness. I hold this awareness and come back to the awareness of the physical dimension. But now, present here in this beautiful space, I hold this feeling of peace and inner joy. Thank you. How long does it take to find happiness? It can take just one thought. I go inside and I'm able to connect with my own inner world and rediscover the happiness that's there within. That's all it takes. It's not hard work. It's not effort. It's just simply being aware of where my thoughts are going and what's happening with my thoughts. Again, we've had the experience where perhaps I wasn't feeling so happy, and a memory comes back of something very beautiful. And as the memory returns, it awakens something very beautiful and joyous within me. Equally the other way, that maybe I'm even in a party and everything is beautiful, but I get a phone call and the news isn't very good news. And with one word, one thought, and my mind has shifted gear and I've lost touch with the happiness I was feeling. Our thoughts are very powerful. They can take us to the depths of happiness or equally the depths of sorrow. But the thing is that we don't always realize that we can take charge of the direction our thoughts are going in. We've forgotten that we are actually creators of what's going on in our own inner world. And whatever is the quality of thought I create, accordingly is the quality of my feelings. We are only now beginning to explore the power of the mind and the power of the inner dimension. We've heard about things like IQ for as long as I can remember. Even in my days of childhood at school, they were talking about IQ, measuring IQ. And then it was only some years ago, not longer than 20 years maybe, that they started talking about EQ. Prior to that, we hadn't heard this term. And then even more recently, they've started talking about SQ. It's very recent. And so IQ, and it's the intelligence that related to the physical dimension, the world of matter, time, and space, and distance, and it's important. But IQ on its own doesn't bring happiness or success. We've had enough evidence of that. We know that if there's a task to be done, it's not only someone with super intelligence who's going to be able to fulfill it well. We know that there's the dimension of human relationships. And so EQ, emotional quotient, that then takes up the subject of how I relate to others and deal with the things in terms of other people and relationships. But now we are beginning to understand that it's not even just a question of EQ, but something else, and that is SQ. And my definition of that would be, well, spiritual quotient, but in particular, it relates to the exploration of the self. So we've been working backwards, looking at the things outside, then looking at things in terms of others. But now we're beginning to be aware that what's most important is to go on this journey inside and discover what's going on within. On the one side, there's been such amazing development in the world. And on the other side, at the same time, we've lost touch with our values. We've lost touch with happiness and love. And that's because we'd forgotten about the journey inwards. We'd become so occupied in all the things outside and all the distractions that are there outside that we forgot that the most important thing was finding out what was going inside the self. And so I think we've now come to a point where many people understand that it's absolutely vital. And in fact, spirituality tells me that the journey begins inside, and then relationships can be as I would want them to be. And then the role that I play in this physical dimension of time and space also works out as it should. But we've gone on the other journey, which is fine. At least we've got there finally. But now, time to look inside and sort things out and see what's going on. It's a little bit strange that peace is my natural state of being. And I know that because when there's peace, I feel comfortable. Here in this atmosphere where it's calm and peaceful, I think everybody's feeling quite relaxed. If there was an atmosphere of chaos, I don't think I'd be seeing such comfortable, relaxed faces. There'd be stress and tension. And so human souls benefit and feel comfortable when there's peace, when there's an atmosphere of love. The physical body and the physiology of the body, again, the same thing. When it's a state of mind in which there's peace, then the body stays in a state of harmony and order. And if my mind is in a state of upheaval, well, I think medical people here will tell you how much upheaval of the mind creates upheaval in the body. Somebody was telling me the other day, she's diabetic and she was in a different country and specially phoned to talk about it. But she said that somebody was causing her a great deal of stress, and so it had actually made her feel very ill. And I think it's something that many of us are aware of. And so when the mind is peaceful, when I'm able to increase my inner capacity to deal with whatever life is throwing at me, whether it's challenging situations or challenging people, but when I can do that, then my body stays in a state of order and harmony. So peace is natural, peace is comfortable, peace is something that we enjoy. Equally, when there's an atmosphere of warmth and happiness, everybody enjoys that. And if there's an atmosphere of distress, then yes, if I have to be there to serve and help others, I'll do that. But it's not something that the heart wants to be part of. But when there's an atmosphere of love and happiness, again, the feeling of great comfort. And so simple indications that seem to indicate that the qualities that we want to experience in our lives, peace and love and happiness, these are the natural qualities of the self. But of course, if I don't know the self, then I'm going to be chasing these things outside and never actually be able to find them. In India, they have a story about the musk deer. Christmas time, when they talk about frankincense and incense and musk and things like this, it's very fragrant. And the deer can smell this fragrance, and the deer runs around trying to search for it. But what it doesn't realize is that the musk, the fragrance, is emanating from within its own belly. And so it's chasing around out there, and yet it's there within it. Real story. But the same thing applies to human beings. We're looking for things outside, out there, and then discovering that it's not very fulfilling because it's very transient. But we don't realize that all the treasures we are seeking are inside. And so tonight, we're going to experiment with that inner journey, going within. And just as you were able to feel that calm and peace, and maybe even that inner joy, we'll have a few more experiments in the same way. And you'll find that if you practice some of these ideas, you'll actually get results. And maybe the first time you practice it, you won't get results, but try it again and again. And definitely, these are methods that have been tested over centuries, and definitely you will get results. When I discovered that I've been caught up with my physical identity, and I'd forgotten about my own inner identity, and I decided that I really want to get to know myself. And when I get to know myself, I'm going to be able to begin to value and love myself also. There's an interesting statement in the scriptures that states, "Love thy neighbor as you would love yourself." well, how much do I love my neighbor? And maybe it applies to both types of neighbors, the people I live next door to. Do I get on with my neighbors? Many, many complaints, many, many stories about neighbors. Sometimes good ones, but more often than not, things of irritation, things that are not quite right. But also, my neighbor is the stranger. Different features, different color, different race, different habits, different culture, different, everything different. But that one is also my neighbor. And we're not very good at loving our neighbors. And it's easy to understand why this is so. Because the scripture tells us, love thy neighbor as you would love yourself. And we don't love ourselves very much. And the most important thing is that we don't give time to ourselves. If I'm not giving time to myself, how can I get to know myself and love myself? Ask yourself the question, when was the last time I had an inner dialogue with myself? I spent time not going crazy. People out there think that if you talk to yourself, you go crazy. But in fact, I think it's the other way. If you don't talk to yourself, then you go crazy. But to talk to myself in terms of seeing what's going on with my conscience, my thoughts, my feelings, how is all of this working together? And is everything in tune, synchronizing together? Is everything working in harmony? And so having an inner dialogue with oneself is very meaningful. I learn more and more about myself. I value myself, and I even begin to love myself. Some of you know a lady called BK Jayanti, who's now 98 years old. And many, many years ago, she shared a story with us, and she's always had physical challenges in terms of her health, and yet she's 98 and still traveling. But many years ago, maybe even 40 years ago, she said, when I look into the mirror each morning, I remind myself of how much I love myself. And if I do this every morning, then it becomes much easier to deal with the physical challenges of health. But it also makes me a much sweeter person, because then I'm able to love others also. And so it's a practice she's had all this time. Well, it started before that time, but certainly I know that through these years she's been doing that. But when you go home tonight, look into the mirror and tell yourself how much you love yourself. And you'll probably find that your mind is very rested and calm, and your sleep will be a more peaceful and healthy, refreshing sleep. But equally, tomorrow morning when you awaken, again, look into the mirror and look at the shining star that you are. Don't look and check if there's one more grey hair or 10 more grey hairs. That's not what I'm talking about. But look here. And when you look here, then you'll see the eternal being that you are. And yes, then the soul can tell itself, can speak to itself and say, yes, I love you. Knowing myself and discovering the peace and love within also allows me to discover the happiness that's there within. And the more I go on this journey, the more I'm able to know this and benefit from it. There's another factor. It can't just be my thoughts and my feelings. It also has to be something very much related to my life and what's going on in my own world around me. And what you'll find is that the more you emerge this happiness within the self, the relationships that you have are going to be healthy relationships, because you're in a situation in which it's a genuine giving. It's not a situation in which you're needy. Most relationships are based on something that we want from the other. But in this case, connecting with myself means that there's something I can offer and give and share. And so the quality of relationships begins to change. And if I'm feeling content within, then in that state of contentment, I'm more likely to be tolerant and be able to love others. I've seen it in myself, I've seen it in others, that if the quality of contentment inside begins to drop, then it's very easy to get irritable and impatient, and maybe even worse than that. And so being in touch with the self means I'm creating the state of contentment and fulfillment within, so that then when I come into interaction with others, it's a sweet exchange. Just as the natural state of the human spirit is that of peace, of love and joy, the natural quality of human interaction and the purpose of human interaction is actually also this: to be able to have an exchange of love, of respect, of happiness. And how often does that happen? Even with the people we love the most, there seems to be a friction that comes in, and there are sparks that keep flying. And we don't intend to cause any sorrow, but we don't even realize that this is what we're doing. But inner contentment, a state of happiness within, and then yes, relationships come back to the state that they should be in. And we've moved very, very far away from that. So, time to rediscover this inner state of my own original qualities and make things right once again out here too. Let's have another experiment and go on that inner journey and discover these treasures. Aware of the inner being, the being of light, I connect with the peace within. I hold peace in my thoughts, peace becomes a feeling. I feel peace. And with peace, I'm able to go even deeper and find love within myself. Love that's clean and pure and generous. Love that's able to give, able to accept, as I discover peace and love, I begin to get a glimpse of the original state of truth within the self. I'd forgotten what truth is. So many false things were drawing my attention out there that I lost my ability to even be able to distinguish truth from falsehood. And now, through this inner journey, I catch a glimpse of the original state of the soul, that of truth. As I discover love and truth within my own treasure store, I also discover the happiness that is within. Happiness that belongs to me. Happiness that can stay with me. Happiness that I can share. Automatically, naturally, the vibrations of these qualities reaches out and touches the human family, our thoughts of love, of peace reach out and touch souls looking for this. So many souls searching so desperately for peace. And as our thoughts send out vibrations of peace, souls desperate for peace begin to feel calm as the power of peace reaches them. The peace we generate here reaches out and touches nature. So that nature is able to be calm and return to a state of order. The power of peace restores order in my own inner world and the world around me. The power of peace reaches out and brings order to the entire world, so that the human family lives in harmony together and in harmony with the elements of nature. Holding this awareness of my inner treasures, I come back to the awareness of the space here and the moment in time. That I keep this awareness of who I truly am and the treasures within. Thank you. I've spoken about talking to the self and coming back to a state of harmony within. One of the things that disturbs this inner harmony is when my emotions and feelings pull me in one direction and my conscience moves in another direction. And so definitely, while there's this struggle going on inside, I'm not going to feel very happy. But also this inner struggle then manifests in my life. And it's not possible to have natural, easy relationships with others around me. And so the inner dialogue is about aligning both of these things. Meditation awakens my conscience so that I can see clearly what it is that is right. Otherwise, in today's world, there are so many influences working on us and so many different sounds. One sound taking me here, another sound taking me there, and something else happening in another direction. That we don't always listen to what's going on within. And so firstly, it awakens my ability to be able to see things clearly and know the direction that is right. But equally, meditation cleanses both the conscience as well as my feelings and emotions. And as my feelings and emotions become healthy and clean, free from negativity, then both things come together very, very well. And I have the power to be able to listen to the voice of conscience and follow it through. Sometimes maybe it's pressure at work. You know what you should do, but you're being asked to do something else. Has that happened to you? You don't have to tell me. I can imagine. Sometimes it's peer pressure. It's my friends. My conscience is telling me something, but my friends are pulling me in a different direction. Sometimes it's just my own weakness, and I get pulled into things. And so on the one hand, yes, to know myself and to work on this process of cleansing. But what I've also found is that trying to do it on my own is making it a very big job. But there's help available. And I mean help from up above, help from the divine. Maybe there's a time when you don't know who the divine is. You're searching. And maybe it's even come to a point where you say, well, I don't think there is someone. It's just us. And the rest is imagination. My own experience was that going on this inner journey allowed me to feel the presence of the divine. And I'd been in a situation where, because I wasn't getting answers from the people I was asking, maybe I was asking the wrong people, but I wasn't getting answers that made a lot of sense. And so I decided, well, the subject of God was something that I'd look at later on. I wasn't going to allow it to bother me. But I was lucky, and very early on, when I came to this awareness of the soul, then very soon, understanding the Supreme as a being of light, no human form, no angelic form, but the being of light who is the source of peace and love, compassion and joy, the being who's absolute truth, the one who's the almighty authority. Think about all the highest qualities that we, we've experienced or we know that exist, and think of one being who has all of these, and that is the Supreme. To me, it sounded something that was plausible, something that I could connect with and relate to. And when I started experimenting in my own meditation, firstly being here, coming to the awareness of the inner being, the soul, and then focusing my thoughts on the being of light, the Supreme, I found that it wasn't just my own inner state of peace, a little bit, but more, it was the experience of love and peace coming from this being. And I know that that connection is everyone's right. Each and every human being has an eternal relationship with the divine, and most times we've forgotten, well, we forgot ourselves, so of course we also forgot the relationship with the divine. But in this discovery of the self, it becomes very possible to feel the presence of the divine and to make that contact and begin to communicate. One of the things that's become popular in the world today is yoga. And the word yoga means union. And it's actually referring to the union with the Supreme. Not just being able to harmonize my own energies, that too, but the things I've been sharing with you tonight come from the teachings of Raj Yoga. Raja, the sovereign, the master, the supreme. And so yoga, the union, the connection with the Supreme. And so what happens is when I focus my thoughts on the divine and I receive from the source of love and peace these qualities, then it isn't just a little bit of peace, it isn't just a little bit of love, but one begins to experience the power of peace and the power of love. And that first and foremost brings about transformation within myself. And as I begin to see this transformation, yes, that brings very, very great happiness. Maybe there are habits that you've struggled with, and you've tried once and twice and 3 times to deal with these habits, but it carries on. And then maybe you think, well, what can I do? I'll just have to live with it. But connecting with the divine, one is able to draw power within the self. And that power is the energy with which transformation happens. And the things that I've tried to do on my own and I've struggled with now become very, very easy and natural. Whatever it is you want to bring about change in terms of letting go of things that were not useful for you, but you clung on to them or they clung on to you. But with this inner power, that transformation begins to happen. But it also means that with this inner power, then again, the alignment of my values and my feelings and emotions and conscience and life all come together very, very beautifully. And so I move on the road to happiness, accumulating more and more happiness as I journey along. You know how the little victories that you have in your life give you great courage and inspire you and help you move on. So this is what happens as you take that power and little things and big things begin to shift, and it brings a tremendous amount of joy. but also it's a source of inspiration for you to keep going. But maybe even more than that, it becomes inspiration for those who know you, your family and friends. If one person's able to achieve something, others know that they can also. So it sets off that spark of inspiration. Another way in which to generate happiness and be able to maintain happiness is appreciation. When was the last time you told people close to you how much you appreciate them? And maybe tonight when you go back home, that's the first thing you do, even before looking into the mirror. Just a word of appreciation. And so the appreciation of others, but also appreciation of your own fortune. When I look around the room and I see most people coming from a comfortable background, and that's probably true of most of Australia. People are comfortable here. That's not true in many other places. Let me count my blessings. How much is there in my life for me to be grateful for? The appreciation of others and appreciation of what destiny has provided me with. And yes, maybe it's also been my hard work, but sometimes people can work very, very hard and still there isn't any achievement. But if destiny has brought me here to this point where I have a lot of attainment in my life, let me have that feeling of gratitude. And when you think about it, you'll see how when you feel gratitude in your life, it brings a tremendous sense of well-being and happiness. But also, you can't feel gratitude and anger at the same time. They don't go together. And so one is trying to deal with my anger, but the other is just increasing my level of contentment and my level of gratitude. And if I can do this, then the other thing is going to fade away from my life. Other negative feelings that we have, anger is very visible and instantly recognizable. But there's all sorts of other stuff that we carry. But gratitude helps me deal with many of those negative feelings and qualities. But equally, the feeling of love. And one is the feeling of loving myself, but the other is being able to receive God's love. And as I fill myself with God's love, that also is a process twofold. It's both a healing process and it's also a cleansing process. And both things work together in a sense where I carry bad feelings about situations and people because I feel the pain of it and the pain's not going. And if I can take God's love and with the power of God's love, let that feeling of pain be healed. And love is a healer, and you'll be able to feel that. You'll be able to feel God's love taking away the pain. And as the pain dissolves, you'll find that it's very easy to change your feelings about the situation and the persons involved. And so the cleansing and the healing both happen together with the power of God's love. And if I'm carrying feelings of hurt, what happens to happiness? I'm not in touch with it at all. But the power of cleansing and the power of healing And yes, then I can come back to that state of well-being and good health in which there's a feeling of happiness within. When you've been able to do something for another, what does it do for you? It's been good for them, but more than that, it's really a feeling of worthiness and comfort within the self. And so, as I do that which is right, that which is good, without counting, sometimes we think we're doing good, but then we're also keeping a mental note. How much did I do? What did I do? And what do they do in return? Do they appreciate? Do they acknowledge? But no. If I know what I need to do, and I just continue to do it, the comeback of that is happiness within, but also greater strength within. I receive both these things. Christmas time, when we're reminded that there's greater happiness in giving than in receiving. But we don't usually remember that. Or as I say, we keep a mental account of the give and take. But yet, if I can change that within myself, because I received so much that I can't even count, and I appreciate and feel the fortune of that which I've received, then I can give very easily and very freely. I learned something many years ago, and it was a situation, and again, my mentor, Daddy Janki, said, in response to somebody saying to her, but Daddy, we see that you've got a very generous heart. How can I have a heart that's as generous as yours? And she said, well, first you need to clean your heart. And then, second step, you need to have a big heart and an honest heart. And then you can have a generous heart. And so take yourself through these steps also. First, the cleansing of the heart, and then honesty in the heart. And honesty in the heart is very much dependent on good feelings for all, not holding any other feelings in the self, but making sure that there's good feelings and good wishes. Do I have good wishes for everyone? Or is it that I have good wishes for those who are close to me and I can't be bothered with others? Or is it that within my relationships there's one or two that I don't have good wishes for? But if there's one or two that I don't have good wishes for, that also is. You know how many drops of poison does it take to change a glass of nectar? One drop. And so one person, and I don't have good wishes for them, I don't have good feelings for them, or I haven't been able to forgive them, and it actually spoils the quality of all my relationships. I don't realize this at the time. And so the process of cleaning and having honest, good feelings for all, then my heart can be a big heart, and truly there can be generosity in which I'm able to give. But in the giving, it comes back to me multiplied many, 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 many times. And so the treasure store begins to grow and there's abundance. It's beautiful that we're approaching that time of Christmas and we're able to share these ideas, because maybe it's a time when, instead of just the glitter and the glamour of Christmas, you look into the deeper spirit of Christmas and just come to that awareness and those feelings and really have a spirit of Christmas in your life, so that then whatever you do over the next few weeks becomes a very natural habit for you. The spirit of giving, the spirit of generosity, the spirit of sharing. Just as earlier I was asking you, how long does it take to create a feeling of happiness? And it's one thought. Same thing. How long does it take to create a habit? It's one thought. One thought, and that one thought becomes an action, and that one action creates the habit. And that habit becomes part of your personality. It's imprinted on your personality. And so just practice staying happy and sharing and giving over the next few weeks. And you'll find that when January comes, you're already a new person. And there's been transformation. And transformation in a group like this, and I believe that transformation in the world will happen very quickly. Because when there's a powerful group of individuals who make a commitment for change, then the repercussion of that impacts the majority. A minority that's powerful and committed has an impact on the majority also. We just have to raise that level of power and energy to reach the point of critical mass, and the world can change. Let's have a final meditation. And I'm sure by now you've picked up a few tips, that it's really just a question of changing the direction of your thoughts. And instead of being out there, going inwards and going deeper. And now we're going to take up another aspect of the connection with the divine. Aware of the light that shines, the inner being, I the soul. I become peaceful. And in this awareness of peace, I can feel the presence of the divine. And God's peace reaching me. And peace becomes a power that can make things move, a power that can change things. And the power of peace reaches out into the world. And awakens the feeling of peace within souls. And the power of peace reaches all forms of life. And they feel safe and secure. The power of peace reaches nature, restoring harmony. And in the presence of the divine, I feel unconditional love, non-judgmental love, pure love. Love that heals the soul. As I absorb the power of love within myself, the pain dissolves. My heart is cleansed. And I can forgive. I can let go. And I can be free. And the power of love awakens hope. And in the presence of the divine, I now remember that this is the eternal relationship that has no beginning or end. But it's one that I'd forgotten. And now, as the memory of this awakens, the soul feels joy. Great happiness that I have found the one, the Supreme. And filled with this happiness, the soul shares this happiness and joy with all others. And the power of happiness reaches out into the world. Bringing light into the world again. So that the darkness and heaviness of the world is removed. And all are able to share in comfort and happiness. as the power of happiness reaches out into the world. Truly, the world becomes a better place for all. I stay connected with the Supreme. I come back to the awareness of the things here and now. But I hold this awareness of who I am, who I belong to, and what it is I must do. Om Shanti. Thank you for your attention, and thank you to the musicians for that beautiful background.
Sister Jayanti, on behalf of all of the audience, we thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with such clarity and for showing us ways to overcome that inner struggle that we often experience, and for the practical steps that you've shown us to access that inner happiness that does give us the power to improve our lives. We thank you very, very much. And I would like to let everybody know that Sister Jayanti's books and CDs are available at the entrance in the foyer. And also David, Carmen and Megan and Michael, our wonderful musicians, also have CDs down here at the stage. These are wonderful gifts for yourself and also for those Christmas gifts as well. And to remind us of Sister Jayanti's ways, the practical ways of overcoming these inner struggles that we often have. And before we leave, I would like to invite all of you on behalf of the Brahma Kumaris to come forward, because there are some beautiful gifts of a homemade sweet with a card with 7 steps to happiness. And this is also a chance to connect with Sister Jayanti and share soul-conscious vision. So thank you very much on behalf of the Brahma Kumaris for coming along this evening. Thank you.